So in case you have any issue with seeing my screen, or if you cannot see my screen, or if I am not audible, just type it in the chat window, okay, and I will probably help you out. See, one quick tip: in case you cannot hear me, or if my screen is freezing, or if you cannot see my screen, then something wrong from your side also. What you do is you try to log in with a new session, okay. So in that way you can fix that issue. But if you experience still the screen freezing, or if you cannot hear me, right, then you need to check your settings, the sound box settings, right, those things you need to check it out, okay. So because once I start the session, just because one or two people, right, I don't want to mess up the other things, and also it will cause some kind of discomfort when you hear my video after the session. Because if I keep on ask, right, are you able to hear me, so am I audible, right, that is the reason. But anyhow, still, if you still pose the issue, you can you can call me, you can call at my mobile phone also, okay. Good that in spite of you all people, I heard a few of you are still having COVID problem at home, but still you joined today. Okay, let's get started. Okay, let's get started. Just give me a second. Give me a second. Somebody is calling me. Okay, let's get started. Okay, and we will in today's session we will start with the fundamentals of statistics. Okay, and before we begin, let's understand what I'm gonna cover in these sections. Right, basically I divided the descriptive statistics into 4 different sections. In section 1 we will see what is statistics, the branches of statistics, and the scales of measurements and so on. In the section 2 we'll discuss about the descriptive statistics, the branches of descriptive statistics such as the measures of central tendency and measures of spread. As part of measures of central tendency, we'll explain the business applications, okay, the business applications of mean, median and mode, and what is outlier and so on. See, during college time, if you are an MBA student or statistics student, as part of your or even school time, you would have learnt about the mean, median and mode. Now the question is, what is so big deal, why should I learn again? So from the business point of view, how do I use these measures like mean, median and mode, and how to apply them, how to use these measures effectively, and when should I use which measure, and when am I not supposed to use which measure. I'll train on that. And also the outlier is also called as anomaly, right? So how to detect an outlier or anomaly in your data set, and how to address them, or how to visualize them, right? How to visualize them, and what is the impact if I have an outlier in my data set. All those things will take a look at it as part of the descriptive statistics. In section 3 we will help you visualizing and understanding the distribution of the data, such as normal distribution, uniform distribution, bimodal distribution and skewed distribution, right, such as positive and negative skew, and how to identify the presence of outliers and the position of the data using percentiles and quartiles and so on. In the last section will help you understand the measures of variability. It is also called as a measures of spread, right? It is right. As part of this, we will take a deep dive in understanding what is the range, what is the variance, standard deviation, coefficient of variation, and how to apply in business scenarios. Okay. So okay. First of all, what is statistics? Can someone tell me what is statistics, or type it in the chat window? What is statistics? What is statistics? Can you make it fast? See, let's make it the communication more interactive. Okay, even if you make mistake, let it be there, because most of the time, right, shamelessly I have to tell you this one, I learned many things by making mistakes only. I learned lot of lessons by making the mistakes. What is statistics? Statistics is science, right? Science, it is related with the developing and studying methods of collecting, analyzing, interpreting and presenting the data, right? Data or numerical facts, and also using statistics, right? We can make some kind of prediction. So all of you must be knowing probability, right? Using probability theory, we can make some kind of prediction, right? So, and also using statistics, we can also build machine learning models, the statistical models, right? And also using the statistical models, how we can predict the future. And again, we have something called the deep learning and computer vision. Those things we'll discuss it later. Anyhow, we have a separate session for introduction to the data science, machine learning, everything once again. Okay, so in that time we will take a deep dive in understanding what are the types of machine learning algorithms are there. Okay, and what are the types of machine learning, like supervised machine learning, unsupervised, those things we'll discuss it later. So statistics is a science. It is related with developing and studying methods for collecting the data, analyzing the data, interpreting and presenting the numerical facts, and also using probability theory we can make some predictions. Okay, there are two important aspects of the statistics of uncertainty and variation. Okay, so in most of the time, right, we encounter that the outcome of certain event is uncertain. An outcome of certain events are uncertain. The example is, what are the chances that tomorrow it will rain? So we are not sure the outcome, right? Whether it will rain tomorrow or not, we are not sure. There is a degree of uncertainty here. But see, with the help of probability, we can say, hey, there is a 0.5 probability it may rain tomorrow, or there is a 0.3 probability or 0.7 probability it may rain tomorrow. We are assigning value, right? The probability values lies between 0 and 4. I guess most of you are aware of this, right? See, but in real life, as a non-statistician, most of the time we use percentage. Am I correct? So what are the chances that you will get promoted in this appraisal cycle? We say, there's a 70% chance that I will get promoted. 70% chance that I will get promoted in this appraisal cycle. But when it comes to statistics, the statistician, they use probability to quantify the measures of uncertainty. Okay, to measure the uncertainty, they use something called probability. The probability value lies between 0 and 1. Okay, probability values lies between 0 and 1. Okay, so always we say 0.7 probability, 0.6 probability. If the value is anywhere between 0 and 1, only we'll be using it to quantify the measure of uncertainty. Right? So 0.7 probability, tomorrow it will rain. If somebody says there is a 0.3 probability it will rain tomorrow, what does it say? There is a less likelihood that tomorrow it will rain. That is what it says. If somebody says 0.7, okay, if somebody says 0.5 probability tomorrow it will rain, what does it say? There is a degree of uncertainty, right? So there is a 0.5 probability it may rain or it may not rain. Right? So the lesser the probability value, it tells us very clearly that likelihood of happening that event is very less. The chances of that event occurring is very slim. Right? The higher the probability, the higher the likelihood of that event can happen. That is what it says. Right? So in a nutshell, so as part of statistics, right, it is a science, and statistics is a science, and as part of the statistical analysis we collect the data. We need the data because data is the backbone. Without data we cannot do anything. Right, so you need a data. Even in the case of machine learning or deep learning, you need to have huge amount of data, without which you cannot do anything. You cannot do any prediction. Okay, you collected the data, and you need to classify the data, and you need to apply some business logic to blend all the data from the heterogeneous source system, whatever you receive it, right? You need to blend the data by performing joining, grouping, aggregation, everything you do it, and then you perform analysis and you interpret your analysis with the help of the numerical data. Also, what you do is you use some charts to get a quick glimpse of what is happening. So no matter how much volume of data you are dealing with it. Nowadays we are dealing with petabytes and above volume of data, not even terabytes. Those days, 10 or 15 years back, when I discussed with few customers, right, when I heard from them that they were holding terabytes volume of the data in the data warehouse, we thought it was a very big data. Now terabyte is nothing. Even a single day itself, the big box retailers like Walmart, Target, and Amazon, they generate a humongous amount of data. You take, for example, in the case of social media websites like Twitter, and even in the case of Facebook, right? So even WhatsApp, we are sending you humongous amount of data. We are sharing everything nowadays. Even I could see that the official documents also unofficially they are sending it through WhatsApp, right? A lot of communications happening through WhatsApp. The humongous amount of digital data are being generated, right? So when you look at a simple chart, you will gain a quick insight in spite of the volume of the data. No matter whether the data is petabyte or zettabyte, right? All you need to do is just look at the chart. That gives you an instant idea about what is happening behind the scene, right? Okay, so as part of statistics, there are two main branches. What are those two main branches? One is the descriptive statistics. I'll just write it here. There are two different branches. One is the descriptive, another one is inferential statistics. Okay, sorry, I left a gap here. Inferential statistics. Here there is no space, okay? Inferential, okay? Inferential statistics and descriptive statistics. In statistics, these are the two main branches are there. Today we'll take a look at what is descriptive statistics all about, okay? And after the completion of descriptive statistics, we'll take a look at the inferential statistics. So within this descriptive statistics, there are two branches. The one is the measures of central tendency. Don't worry, I will share today's video also, okay? Measures of spread or the variability, measures of variability. I spoke about this, right? There are two aspects, the important aspect of statistics. One is the uncertainty and the other one is the variation, right? So measures of spread. So the central tendency and measures of spread. So statistics at the broader level has two branches. One is descriptive and another one is inferential statistics. Within this descriptive statistics, there are two branches. One is central tendency, other one is measures of spread. Today we will take a look at the central tendency. If possible, we will cover measures of spread also, but we will start look at the central tendency first. Okay. So okay, fine. So these descriptive statistics also called as exploratory data analysis. The descriptive statistics is also called as exploratory data analysis. This is what we do, right? In general, let's say in office, right? We get the customer data, and then what we do is explore the data. Once you have the data, you start to explore the data using some charts or using some tables. You explore the data. By exploring the data, you will get to know what is happening behind the scene, right? Let's say you are into retail business or into banking, or if you are into energy, or you are into healthcare or insurance, right? Right. So you have the data set, and by looking at the data, by performing the deeper analysis, by plotting charts, tables, right, you will gain more insights, right? That is what we usually do it. That is called exploratory data analysis. The inferential statistics is called as explanatory data. It is also called as explanatory data analysis. Explanatory data analysis. So this is called as exploratory data analysis. This is called your explanatory data analysis. Okay. So before we continue with understanding what exactly descriptive statistics is all about, let us first understand certain the nuts and bolts of the statistics. Okay, you should be knowing the different scales of measurement in statistics. This is a very fundamental thing before we start the descriptive statistics part. Okay. Let's try to understand. It is also called as 4 different types of variables. Some people, they say types of variables or different scales of measurement. All these terms are more or less same. And here these are the 4 types of scales of measurements are there. The one is the nominal and the other one is ordinal type of variable. Nominal type of variable and ordinal type of variable. These two are called the nominal and ordinal type. These two are also called as qualitative data. So qualitative data. So the interval ratio is also called as quantitative data or quantitative data analysis or quantitative variables. We'll say quantitative variables. Quantitative variables. These are called your qualitative variables or right, so variable. So in the variable only we store the data, isn't it? So qualitative data, these two are called the qualitative, these two are called quantitative variables. Now the question is, okay, nominal and ordinal, these two are qualitative variable. Why can't it be, why there is a distinction between nominal and ordinal within this qualitative variable? There is a rationale behind this. I will explain you with some examples. With that example you will be able to understand why they distinguished the qualitative variable into two different things, right? Like nominal and ordinal. Okay, the simple example for nominal type of variables, or as I mentioned, qualitative variable. What do you mean by qualitative variable? It is, some people, right, they call it as categorical variable also. Categorical variable, and roughly speaking categorical variable. They use the term categorical variable or qualitative variable, right? So the one example is, for example, I will use this column named gender. So in my Excel sheet, I have close to 25 columns are there. The gender is one of the columns. The gender column, I can see male or female, right? Only these two values will be there in the gender column, right? So male or female. Okay. Okay, fine. So no matter how much data in your Excel sheet, right? The gender column will have only male, female, maybe repetition will be there. Male, female, male, female, male, 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 male. Some records will be female. With this categorical variable only, we can determine which transactions are related to male or which all transactions made by female. Let's say you are given an order transaction related data in Excel sheet. You open the Excel sheet. Let's say you don't have this gender column in that. If you don't have the gender column in that Excel, what will happen? You will not be able to categorize which all transactions were made by male, which all transactions were made by female. That is the reason why you need to have a categorical variable. With the categorical variable only, you can do some kind of classification. Fine, I have a column called gender, and in my Excel sheet I could see almost 100,000, right? 100,000 transactions are there. Now my manager wants to know how many number of transactions or orders generated by males, how many number of orders raised by females. Right? So in that case, you can tell very clearly by doing some kind of frequency or by checking the occurrences of males, right? By counting you can do some kind of count. By counting the number of occurrences of male, you can tell, hey, out of 100,000 transactions, 70,000 transactions were made by male, or 70,000 orders were raised by male, and remaining 30,000 orders raised by female. Right? The gender column, as I told you, male, it will have the data like male, female, male, 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 female, female, male, female, something like that. Let's say you have 100,000 records, right? Out of, for all these 100,000 records, you can see the repetition of only these two values. The distinct value stored in gender is just 2 only, no matter what are the number of records you have in your data set, right? So the distinct values are just 2 only. If you find out the distinct values, right, it will give you only 2 only. Now, can I perform an average on this column? Can I perform an average on this gender column? See, in the gender column I have male, female, and again the third transaction or third order was raised by male, and again male and female. It is completely illogical, right? This is a categorical variable. It has a text in it. If I do an average on this column, it will not make any sense. It will not make any sense. Okay, next the question is, you might be thinking about, sir, in gender column, instead of male and female, I am going to encode, I am going to do some kind of encoding. In statistics or machine learning, if somebody use this term encoding, that means replacing this value with some other value. For male I say 1 and female I say 0. The next transactions were made by male, male and female, male, female, 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 male. Okay, I did encoding on this categorical variable. Instead of saying male, female, text value, because I cannot perform any arithmetic operation, especially the average, I cannot perform on this column because this has text values in it. Instead of using text, I did some kind of encoding, but still, if you do average on this column, it does not make any sense. Can you say 1 point, or let's say, how many are there? 2, 4, 5, 6, right? 6 divided by 6 divided by 60 is there, right? So 0.6. You cannot say 0.6 transactions were made by male, right? It doesn't make any sense. So average is you cannot perform average on gender column. In statistics, we call average as mean, which is nothing but average. Okay, in the plain English we say average, but in statistics we call that as a mean. You cannot perform mean on this gender column. Even though you perform encoding, it does not make any sense. So what other arithmetic operation? You can perform count only. How many number of males made transaction, or right, how many number of males versus females, right? The orders has been raised. That you can for frequencies. Number of occurrences are nothing but frequencies, right? And also you can find out the proportion compared to male and female. What is the proportion of male vis-a-vis with female, the number of orders raised, right? That one you can use it. Frequencies and proportions are possible. This is an example for. Next, another example for nominal variable is, right, defect is defective. I have a column called is defective. You are performing, let's say you are working in a manufacturing company. You are a kind of quality inspector. You are the one supposed to validate or inspect the products manufactured by the machine. Okay, and what you are doing is there is a column called is defect. Whichever products, let's per shift, let's say you have 10 machines are there in your manufacturing unit, and each machine will produce 10 products per hour. Okay, so 10 into 10, 100 products, right? So what you do is, you as a quality inspector, you take each and every product and you measure the size and shape and colors, or the ratio of the mix. In the case of medical, right, industry, right, they will check what is the proportion of the chemicals were used in each and every tablet, something like that. So you are in this column, what you do is you specify either yes or no. Is this defective? Okay, the item one we checked it is yes, defective. The second one is non-defective. There is yes, no, 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 right? So yes, two. That means there are two items were defective and the rest of them are non-defective. So in this column you will be using either yes or no. This is another example for nominal type of variable. Now the question is, so this is kind of a binary, right? Either I have yes or no. Only two classes are there. But in gender also we have only two classes. Can I have more than two classes? That is also possible. Let's say you are working in let's say you are car dealer, leading car dealer. You sell different brands of car. Each brand the color of the car is, right? Each brand you have different colors of cars. Right, so you have red color and beige color, like you have different colors are there, right? But end of the day, when you find out the unique value stored in this column, right, it will be less. It will be less. That's the reason why we call that as a categorical variable. Okay. So, but still you cannot perform any average, but you can do the count. How many reds are there? How many beige colors are there? Right? That kind of thing you can do count. It's nothing but the frequencies. Right? The color, gender, is defective. These are the examples for nominal. And also you have another column called lone defaulter. Lone defaulter. Whether the customer is going to default yes, no, 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 no. Right? So something like that. So those customers flagged as Y, they are called defaulters. So in this column also you will have only two values, but there are columns where you can have more than one. So another example is, I can give you a number of examples. Okay, for example, order priority, right? So order priority. So you have something called high, medium, low. So this is also a categorical variable, but this is not a ordinal type of variable. So nominal type of variable. This is not a nominal type of variable. Which one? The order priority. Okay, I'll write it. Hope you are able to see, right? I just scribbled it here. Or the last one is nothing but the order priority. Okay, the order priority. This one is order priority, high, medium, low. This column will have only these three values. You cannot have any other values in it. Or you have something called, let's say you are a project manager. In your project, you are logging all the defects in a defect tracking system. So you have a column called defect severity, right? So medium, high, low severity. So high severity defects has to be or have to be addressed within 1 or 2 hours. Medium in 1 or 2 days, and low low severe defects you can probably address in 3 to 4 days. But this column is not called as a nominal type of a variable. Why? Because here there is an order coming into picture. The high, let's say the order period is high, right? That means top period, because the customer has paid more money because they want this item to be shipped in a day or two. Whereas in the case of medium priority, 2 to 3 days you can ship it. Low, you can take 4 days or 5 days or 7 days also, not a problem. Order priority. But whatever the transactions, whatever the orders raised by the customers as higher priority, it is superior than the medium priority. And the medium priority is superior than obviously the low priority. Right? There is some kind of superiority coming into picture. I'll just write it here. When it comes to the priority, right? So when it comes to the priority, high is superior than medium, and medium is superior than low priority, which means the high priority orders have to be shipped within a day, single day, one day, right? And the medium priority orders have to be shipped within 2 to 3 days time, and the low priority orders have to be shipped in a matter of, right, so 4 to 5 days you can take. There is an order comes into picture. When it comes to ordinal type of variable, why we call this ordinal? Because the value stored in this column, order priority, right? So priority, right? So the value stored in the order priority column, inherently it has some order in it. Because high is superior than medium, medium is superior than low. But can we say when it comes to nominal type of value, just because I mentioned 1, I encoded 1 for male, can I say male is superior than female? You cannot say. There is no order or rank here. There is no order or rank is there in your gender column. Even in the case of color column, we cannot say red is superior than beige, right? It is just, see, it's just a label. We just use the label to distinguish, within the given data set, how many number of cars are red color, how many number of cars are beige color, or which all brands, how many number of brands we have red color cars, how many number of brands we have beige color. To understand the frequency, we use this one, but there is no superiority or inferiority here in the case of this one, right? So now you understood what is the difference between nominal and ordinal. That is the reason why they have distinguished the qualitative variable itself in 2 categories. One is nominal and ordinal. Fine. Other example for appraisal rating. Appraisal rating, right? Appraisal rating in our office, right? So let's say 1 being higher rating, 2 is superior than 3, right? So what is 1? 1 is outstanding, your performance is outstanding. The second one is very good, your performance is very good. Whereas 3 is meeting the expectations. Whatever job I gave, you completed it. Whereas this guy, right, those guys fall in this bucket, appraisal rating 2, they not only completed the task given by us, they not even met our expectation. They went beyond and they did some kind of stretch role. They played kind of stretch role. And the next one is 4. Needs improvement. Needs improvement, NIP, right? So they need to improve. So we need to put them on the performance improvement. We need to come up with some kind of performance improvement plan, right? These people. So 1 is obviously superior than 2, 2 is obviously superior than 3, and 3 is obviously superior than 4. Right? So there is a rank comes into picture where in the case of the order priority or the variables, the categorical variables, the data in the categorical variables inherently has some order in it. Hence we call it ordinal type of variable. Next we will see what is interval. Okay, just I'll give you a quick tip. Interval is a whole number. Interval is a whole number, whereas ratio is, the ratio has some decimal values in it. So now you tell me, give me some example for whole number. One second. what is the example for the whole number is this one, right? So let's say in a labor ward, in a hospital, right? So the labor ward, right? The senior staff nurse walking to the labor ward and she is asking the number of male kids born in a ward, right? In that ward, and number of female kids born in a ward, right? Number of kids, okay, number of kids. So number of kids born, let's since morning 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. how many number of kids born? Right, so she noted down one and 2 kids born in within 1 hour time, and 3 kids and 2 kids. So okay, now they wanted to know how many. So here, if somebody is asking you how many number of male kids born and female kids born, you can say, right, so these are all the male kids and this is a female, something, right? So probably female, and this is also female, this is a male, right? So 3 male, 3 plus 1, 4 male, and rest of them are female kids, right? So you can quantify, right, the number of male kids are 4, number of female kids are 5, something like that. You cannot say number of male kids are 3.222, you cannot say, right? Right? So you cannot use, so this type of variable, you cannot have the decimal values in it. It will have a whole number only. And similarly, number of defects, you have another column, number of defects, or assessing each and every items manufactured by the machine. And the first item you could see 2 defects, and second item you can see 1, and third item 0, 0, 0, 0, something like that, right? But you cannot say 2.222 defects were found. In batch 4, we could see 3.222 defects, right? We never say. It is a whole number of defects, number of kids. These are the examples for interval. And how about age? Age also whole number, right? So in practice, we say I am 41 year old, or we say 22 year old. We never say I am 22 year old, 22.2322 something, right? I am just 22 year old. We say the completed age. 22 year old, I am 38 year old. So we say like this one. Age is also another example for the interval. So on top of these variable, you can perform average, you can perform median. Median is nothing but the middle value, and standard deviation also you can compute on this type of numerical variable, because it's all a quantitative variable. It's all quantitative variable, but whereas in the case of nominal type of variable, you cannot apply or compute mean on the qualitative variable. The same is applicable for ordinal. Even on the ordinal type of variable, you cannot obtain the average. Even you can do it, but it doesn't make any sense. But interval is a whole number. That's what I told. Please remember, this is a whole number, and this is your. You can also say it's a discrete variable. But in future, I am going to use this term, discrete variable. Discrete variable. This is a continuous variable. This is a continuous variable. So right, discrete variable is nothing but the whole number. What is continuous variable? As the name suggests, it cannot be a whole number, right? It cannot be a whole number, right? So the values can be anywhere between 0 to 1 or 0 to 1000 or whatever it may be. The classic example is wages. The wages drawn by the employees, weekly wages, right? Sometimes their salary will be 7,000 or 1,702.83, right? Another example is weight, body weight. It cannot be a whole number, right? Suppose you want to ship an item from Chennai to other location, or Pune, or Noida, right? So you need to go to the courier office, and what they do is they charge every 500 gram, right? So every 500 gram. In that case, the decimal value is important. Let's 8.82 gram is there, or kgs are there, right? Kgs, 8.82 kgs. That means 8 kgs, 82 gram. every 50 gram, let's say if they charge it, obviously, right, so they will, or 8 kgs, 802 something, right, so this one matters for them. Other examples are temperature, weight, wages, salary. These are the examples for continuous type of variable. So you understood the distinction between nominal and ordinal type of variable. Though these two belongs to quantitative variable, it is pretty clear why we call certain types of variable as qualitative variable as nominal, certain types of qualitative variables why we call that as ordinal type of variable. And also quantitative variables, there are two categories, one is interval, other one is ratio. Now you understood interval is nothing but the whole number, but in general we call this a discrete variable, and this is called as, the ratio is called as a continuous type of variable. Both the interval and ratio type of variable, you can perform any kind of arithmetic operation like mean, median, mode, everything you can do it. Now you tell me what is this variable? Is this a discrete variable or continuous variable? Gender. Can you please type it in the chat window quickly? I want all of you please type it in the chat. I understood few of you have some limitations, right? And those of you can do it, please do. So gender, male and female. As this I discussed already, it's a nominal type of variable, right? It's a nominal type of variable. It is, it's kind of, right, discrete. It can have only the, or you can use whatever values, right? So we cannot say discrete or continuous. It's just a nominal type of variable. How about age? Age is a nominal or ordinal, or is that a whole number? It's a discrete variable, right? It's a discrete variable because it is a whole number. Hence we call that as a discrete variable. It's an interval, discrete variable. Right? So hours spent last week, 5.30 hours. See, we are all working for US customers, most of you, right? End of the week, every week we are supposed to charge the customers about the hours we spent on the projects. 40 hours typically we used to spend. We are supposed to spend the minimum 40 hours. Some cases we spend extra hours, right? We will charge them. In that case, it cannot be a whole number. It will be like a decimal value. Hence we call it a ratio. Ratio is also called as a continuous type of variable, right? So continuous type of variable. And performance rating is a nominal or ordinal. It is a ordinal variable because inherently it has some order in it. Hence we call this ordinal type of variable. Next we will jump into the important topic, the descriptive statistics. What is descriptive statistics? Descriptive statistics, right, it involves summarizing and organizing the data so that they can be easily understood. Okay, so unlike the inference statistics, the descriptive statistics it seeks to describe the data but not making any attempt to make inferences from the sample to the whole population. Right? So as part of the key idea of descriptive statistics is we are very much interested in summarizing the data. So you might be using some graphical, you might be using some charts, right, to graphically demonstrate or share it with your business stakeholders. You will be using some charts also, okay, or you might be using some tables, right? So, but end of the day, you will be showing the aggregated value or summarized value. As we discussed earlier, the descriptive statistics are broken down into two categories. One is the central tendency, measures of central tendency. The other one is measures of variability or spread. Measures of variability, or we call that as a spread. Okay, spread. So what is central tendency? Right, here we are very particular about where the center of distribution tend to be, or how central the data. We want to, we are interested in understanding the central location of the data. Central location of the data. So the spread is nothing but how spread the given data is. Is this the spread is too wide or the spread is too less? Right? When you plot the data in histogram or box plot, right? Usually we use histogram to plot the data to understand the distribution or the spread of the data. All these three are normally distributed data, but here the spread is less, here the spread is too wide, here the spread is moderately wide. Anyway, we will discuss this in detail little later, or in tomorrow's session or day after tomorrow's session. Okay, first of all, we will try to understand what exactly measures of central tendency and how it is helpful to make the business decision, right? The central tendency indicates where the center of the distribution tends to be. That is what it says. Let's take some example, simple example. Let's say you are a data scientist, you work for a company, right? You are working for Cognizant. Let's say you are working for Cognizant Technologies, CTS, and Sudeep, okay? And in your company, the data scientist salaries are like this, okay? So see here, the situation is all these guys, one guy is getting 48,670, other guy is getting this one, and so on. 6 employees or 6 data scientists salary we randomly sampled here, but all these guys are falling into same level. What do you mean by same level? Listen, each company have band, right? Band 2 or band 3. Within the band 2, level 3 or level 2. These guys are falling into band 2 and level 2 or something like that. All these guys are falling into band 2 and they are into level 2, band 2 and level 2. But if you see, there is a variation amongst their salaries, right? That is a pretty common thing. Let's say you joined a company as a Java developer. You have just 3.5 years experience. Your peers are also, maybe they are 3.5 years, or maybe some of them are 4 years, some of them are 3 years. Based on their experience level, though they fall in band 2 and level 2, based on their experience, based on the previous company where they work, based on their interview performance, right? They get different salaries. Different people get different salaries. This is a common thing. But the one person's salary, if you look at it, right, it is quite striking. 500,000 compared to other data scientist salary. Even this guy also falling in this band and level only. But why too much of salary? Okay. Instead of asking this question, why this guy is getting high salary, right? Now our objective is we want to find out the mean, the average of these salaries. Let's say your manager is giving you all this data and he is asking you, hey, what is the average salary drawn by the data scientist in band 2 and band 3 level 2. What you will tell? What you will do? You will simply add all these values and divide that by the number of samples, right? For example, this 48,670 plus 573 plus 57320 plus this value plus this value plus this value plus this value divided by total number of samples 6, right? 6. So you will get some value. So when I did, when I included this value also in my average, my X bar, which is nothing but the average. We use a notation called X bar. X bar is nothing but the sample average or mean. The mean. Sample mean. The sample mean, we use a notation called X bar. The sample mean of the data scientist, including this guy, it gives me this one. The average. Let's say if you go back and tell your manager the average salary drawn by the data scientists that are part of the band 3 and level 2 are 123k. Fine. So he says he is wondering 123k. Okay. And next, because it cannot be, each person's salary itself 5 digits, right? It cannot be, more than 5 digits, the average. But here it is 6 digit. Is wondering. Fine. Let's say your friend. One common sense question. Let's say your friend is working with Amazon. He is also at your experience only. Your friend is working with Amazon. He is also at your experience only, 3.5 year experience. Okay, he is also a data scientist, and he is asking you, hey, Sudeep, if I join Cognizant or if I apply for the data scientist position at my level, what is the average salary I can expect? What is the average salary I can expect? Will you tell him 123k? Just because one person is getting very high salary, can you tell him, hey, Sudeep, you can get 123k? Okay, now the next question is, if I don't use this value, right? If I don't use this value, and if I use only these values, if you look at the rest of the values, because the distance amongst these values are, somewhat closer compared to this one. The 53,000 is far from this value. Though 38,000 is not so close to 53,000, but when you compare 38,000 with 500,000, it is too far. So all these values are somewhat closer to or clustered to each other. That means it's all closer to each other. If you exclude this value and if you compute average only on these 5 values, you get the average salary is 40,000. By excluding this big value, the average salary comes like this. Because these 5 guys' salary are somewhat closer. But this guy's case is exceptional, right? Exceptionally very high. Will you tell your Amazon friend, hey, Raj, you will get on an average 123k or you will get on an average 48,000? You will obviously tell 48,000 because just because one person is getting very high value, when you include this value also as part of your computation, this value is getting skewed. Your average is getting skewed. Your average is getting skewed. I use this term skewed. SKEWED. This is W. Okay, WED. Your average also skewed. Average is skewed. But when I exclude this value, my average is not skewed. You are setting, when you share this value or when you share this information with your friend, Amazon friend, you are setting a wrong expectation. You are wasting his time. But if you tell him what he will think, hey man, it is worthwhile, investing money in terms of attending the interview with this company because I'm going to get 123k. You are setting a wrong expectation by taking into account of this one as part of your average. Rather, if you tell him 48,000, so you will decide, okay, you can make, go or go no-go decision. You can make a go no-go decision. Oh man, it's 48,000 already, I'm getting way beyond this. Why the hell should I make a switch? Similarly, you take in the other business scenarios, right? Just because you have one value is very sales. Let's take for example sales, right? Only one day your sale was very high. With that, you cannot say just because one day my salary is income is very high, the sales is very high, the average sales is going to be like this. You cannot say, right? This is called as outlier. This value is called outlier. Okay, outlier. This is an outlier data. Just because you have an outlier data in your data set, when you performed average on this data set, your average also skewed. If you have an outlier in your data set, we call this as a skewed data. Skewed data set or skewed data set. Just because you have an outlier in your data set, right? We call that as a skewed data. If you have skewed data and if you perform an average, your average also skewed. Your average also. Okay, now the situation is, what is the bottom line here? So can I exclude this value and tell my friend, hey, you will get 48,000. Take the other example, the sales, right? You cannot exclude. If you exclude and if you tell the average, right, that is also a problem. You are suppressing the fact. Then what is the way out? See, the outlier data can be either data issue, data entry issue, right? Data entry issue. Maybe a wrong data. So when you, so in that case, right, whenever you find outlier data, you need to go back with the relevant business stakeholder and you need to check with them, is this a correct data or not, because we found an outlier. If he says, hey, sorry man, this is not correct, mistakenly put additional 0 here, then it is not outlier data. So correct this data. If the outlier data is due to the data entry mistake, you can correct it. Or if they say no, it is a valid data. So take for example, in this case 500k, yes, this guy worked with Google in the past and he carries 6-year experience or 5 years experience. So as per our company norms, for 6 plus above only we can put them on senior data scientist bucket. Hence he is having just 5.5 years and he is just part of this one, but his previous salary is very high. In Google his salary is very high, and based on his interview performance also, right, we thought by recruiting him will be an asset to our organization. We went ahead and we recruited him by getting some special approval from the senior management. It's a valid data. So the outlier can be either valid data or it can be abnormal value also. If it is abnormal value, your job is very simple, you go and fix it, that's it. But if it is a valid data, you have to take into account of this data also. But if you take into account of this value also, your average is skewed. Then what is the way out? So now I will have to take into account of this one, but my average is skewed, but I cannot tell my Amazon friend, right? So you can get on an average 123k. So what I conclude here is, if your data has outlier in it, we call that as a skewed data. You cannot use mean or average. Do not use mean on the skewed data. Don't use mean on the skewed data. As simple as that. If you don't have outlier, if your data is not skewed, then you can go and use the mean, right? So you can perform average. But in our case, we have our data set is skewed, which means it has an outlier in it. It is a valid outlier, right? In that case, do not use mean on the skewed data. As simple as that. If your data is not skewed, which means you don't have outlier, then you can go ahead and use mean. Then let's see, in real time scenario, most of the time we get skewed data only, right? We will not get the normal distribution data. So in that case, don't use mean. So what else can you use it? We have something else called median. Before we jump into median, let's quickly summarize. Okay, the number of observations in the data set is 10, and if you sum all these values, you get 2750. So 250 plus 300 and so on, right? You will get this one. And the mean has some formula. Add all the values divided by total number of observations. So in statistics, if somebody uses this term observation, is nothing but number of records. Some statisticians, they use the word cases, number of cases. It's nothing but number of records. Don't get confused. Here we have 10 records or cases or observations. If you add all these values, amount spent, in the retail store, right? Each by each customer. So 2,750, 2750 by 10, this gives you the average. There is a formula for computing the mean or average. It works well when data is not heavily skewed. This is very important and very easy to compute, isn't it? We don't have to compute manually. Nowadays we have statistical software. All you need to do is just tell the function, right? You have something called mean function is available. Mean of amount spent, if you tell, it gives you the average automatically. Now you tell me the answer for this quiz. What are the properties of the mean? All salaries in the distribution affect the mean. Is that true or false? You take the data scientist salary I showed in the previous slide, right? Obviously, if you have the outlier also, if you have in your data set, it will affect your distribution. It is true. All salary distribution affect the mean. Yes, true. Mean can be described with a formula. It is true. Many samples from the same population will have similar means. Many samples from the same population will have similar. I'll take a simple example. Supposing this, let's say this is my population. In my population, for simplicity's sake, I take only 4 values, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the values are there in my population. What is the average value? So for population, we have to use a notation called mu. For the average, okay? Population average is 2.5. How? So 4 plus 3, 7 plus 3 is 10. 10 divided by 4 is 2.5. If I draw multiple sample with replacement, I'll tell you replacement later, okay? So 1, 1. I'm drawing another sample 1, 2. Another sample I draw and 1, 3. Another sample is 1, 4, right? So 1, 4. So now you apply, now you check with this sample, right? This statement you can validate by looking at this way. So 1, 1, this is my sample 1. This is my sample 2, sample 3, sample 4. You can draw a number of samples, right? You can draw more samples also. So what is the average for sample 1? 1 only, right? So 1 plus 1 divided by 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1 only. 2 divided by 2 is 1 only. And what is my population mean? 2.5. Many samples from the same will have similar means. See, many samples mean will have similar means. That is not true, right? 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 divided by 2 is how much? 1.5. See, this sample mean is not same. But 4 divided by 2 is 2. This sample mean is different. And 1 plus 4 is 5. 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. In this case, all the sample mean are completely different. Many samples from the same will have true false, right? That is what it says, false. And the next one is the mean of a sample can be used to make inferences, false. Only in inference statistics we can use the average to make the inferences about the population, which I will discuss it later. It is too early to discuss about that. Okay, the next one is the median measure. Median falls under the measures of central tendency. So what is the median? Median is nothing but the middle value. So if you have to compute the median manually, first you need to sort the data, sort the given data in ascending order. Data in ascending order. And then you need to find out the middle value. The second step is find the middle value. Find the mid value. Alright, so let's say these are the values given to you. Randomly they have given you this one, okay? 10, 20, 22, 24, 32, 35, 31. Sorry, 31, 11, right? First you need to sort them in the ascending order. 10 and then 11 and then what is the next big value? 10, 11 and 20, 22, 24, 32, 35. 31 is there, right? 31 and 32, 35 and then 51. 51. Now you sorted the data in ascending order. Simply you strike out the smaller value, minimum and maximum. Minimum and maximum. Simply you strike out these values 31, the middle one is 24. So the median is 24 in this case, right? Not 32, it is 24. You need to sort the data in ascending order and then you need to find out the middle value. But if you look at the number of data points here, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. The number of data points are 9 here, which means this n is nothing but number of samples, n is equal to 9. So the number of samples, the value for the number of samples is 9. It is a odd value. In the case of odd value, finding the middle value is very easy, right? This somebody is giving you, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Finding the middle value is very easy, right? Rest of them you can ignore it, right? The middle value is very easy. But if it is if the number of samples are in terms of even values, right? Take the same example instead of looking at this one, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2 and this one, the two middle values are, you cannot strike out these two, right? So in that in situation 3 plus 4 is 7 divided by 2, which is nothing but 3.5. During school time we study. Okay, median is at the midpoint, that is what it says. Now let us take the same example which I used it earlier, the data scientist salary. So in that this data set, by looking at this, you can say immediately, right, you are a data scientist now because you learned what is outlier, all things. By looking at the outlier value, you can see, you can conclude quickly, okay, this is the given data set is heavily skewed. Skewed data or heavily skewed? Heavily skewed because this value is too high. But if I take only these values, right, the mean is 47,000. The mean is 47,000 and the median is 48,600. You need to sort this data and find out the middle value. You will get this one only. But when you use this value also, this is the one. When you include this one also, the mean is getting skewed like in the average of this heavily skewed data also skewed. But the beauty of median is it is not getting skewed. Look here, right? So median is so robust. So what kind of conclusion you can draw here? If the given data set is heavily skewed, which means if it has the outlier value, then don't use mean. Whereas median is very much, because median is not sensitive to outlier, whereas mean is sensitive. Okay, now let us manually check it out. So what is the very small value? 38,000, right? 38,150, and the next biggest value is 41,290. The next biggest value is 48,670. The next biggest one is obviously the 53,160. The other one is 57,320. The last one is 500 something, right? It's a skewed outlier value. So as per the rule, right, first and last you can strike it out. It is gone. This one and this one, and these two values are there in the middle. You need to add these two values and divide by 2. So when you add these two and divide by 2, you will get 50,915. Since we are finding the middle value in the case of median, it is not sensitive to outlier. Though I have an outlier mandatory, it is not sensitive. Now if you go ahead and tell your friend, instead of saying this value, see in this case you have included this value also. When it comes to median, you included the outlier also in your data set. Even after including the outlier, the median comes something like this. It is not skewed. Now if you tell your Amazon friend, hey, you can get 50k if you join your company, on an average or the median salary what you can get is 50,000. Instead of saying 153k, right? That means you are setting a wrong expectation. Now you understood when you are supposed to use mean, when you are not supposed to use mean. If the data is heavily skewed, close your eyes, use median. If your data is not skewed, use mean. So find the median of this data set. So this is the quiz, okay, and what do you think, where do you think the median is? Where do you think the median is? Yeah, the median is somewhere between 48,670 and 53,160, right? Exactly, or anywhere in between, exactly in between, right? It's not anywhere in between, exactly in between 48,000 and 53,160. Fine, this is the median value. This is the answer for this one. Next one is mode. Mode also falls under measures of central tendency. Let's say, right, in this case, let's say in the case of retail business, right, I have sampled randomly 11 customers amount spent. So this customer spent $240, other customer spent $280, and so on. So now I am creating an interval or bucket. You know what is bucket, right? The range of values. Less than 300. How many number of customers they spent less than 300? So 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 customers. I just recorded this one here. How many number of customers they spent the amount between 300 to 500? So this guy and this guy, right? So 300 to 500. Rest of them were not falling in this bucket, and more than $500. If you look at obviously this guy, right? So only one guy spent more than 500. Right? We created a bucket, and each bucket we found the count, right? We computed the count, and then so now you tell me what is the mode of all these three buckets, right? Is the winner. Winner takes all situation. The most popular value, right? Mode is less than 300. In this case, the mode is less than 300, right? So this is it gives the most popular value. Mode is nothing but the most popular value or most frequently occurring value. It is very easy to understand. Now you tell me the answer for all these things, true or false. Using mode, we can describe if the data set is either categorical or numerical. Using mode, we can describe if the data is, can we say whether the given variable is categorical or numerical using mode? Is that what we use mode? No, right? We use mode to perform the count, the frequency, how many number of times the male value is occurring, how many number of times. That is the purpose we are using mode. Right? We don't use mode to determine whether the given variable is categorical or numerical. It is illogical, right? It is not correct, hence it is false. The expenditures in the below data affect the mode, true or false. What is the mode here? These are the expenditure data. Okay, in the every 10 days how much we expended, that data we notice. So first 10 days 32 and second 10 days 45 and so on, we recorded the data. Right here the mode is the most popular value or the most frequently occurring. 32 is the mode here. Very simple, isn't it? There is an equation of the mode. There is no formula, right? Only for mean is nothing but always we have the formula. I had all the value divided by the total number of data points. But when it comes to mode, there is no formula, hence it is false. The mode remains same for more than one samples drawn from the same paper. This is also false only, right? Same as mean. See, let's take the same example, 3245. So the mode remains same for more than one samples. Let's say you are drawing a sample. One sample is 3245. This is sample 1. Other sample you have something like 32, 45 and 32. Here you have a mode, right? So 32. This sample mode is not same as this sample mode, hence it is false. Can mode change if the bin size in an histogram? Bucket or bin size, these are all same, right? Can a mode change if the bin size in an histogram changes? True, yes, obviously. See, I just draw a line like this. This is just, it's a straight line, okay? I'm not a good artist. This, I'm trying to draw a straight line. This is a straight line. So here 25 to or 20 to 30-year-old customers. See, I just created a bucket. So the customers, those spend, the customers age is between 20 to 30. I just plotted their spend. The spend is something like this, right? So the between 20 to 30-year-old customers, they made 1,000 transactions. They ordered 1,000 items, right? This is my y-axis. In the y-axis, this is 1,000, okay? And similarly, 31 to 41, 40, right? 31 to 40, their spend is something like this. In Excel, we use histogram, right? I guess most of you are popular with the bar plot, but the difference between the histogram and bar plot is there should not be any space between the bar, and also in the y-axis we always plot count only. Please remember this. In the x-axis we plot the quantitative variable, the age of the customer in this case, right? Age. Between 20 to 30, those customers they spend 1,000, whereas the 31 to 40 age group of customer they spend maybe, right, so we can say, right, 1,500, right? If you put something like 1,500. So can a mode change if the bin size is enter? So instead of 20 to 30, if I break this to 20 to 25 and 25, see, in general the common sense is the customers, if you look at, right, majority of the customers between 20 to 25, their income is not good, right? If you break this bucket into two different buckets, 20 to 25, 26 to 30, what will happen is most of the customers between 25 to 30, the number of transactions is 1,000, whereas this one falls down, right? Maybe some 20 to 25, 500. So they made 500. They ordered 500 transactions, or 500 invoices have been generated for between 22. But if you combine these two things, right, all these 20 to 30, just because we have all the mix of people especially 25 to 30 high income group people, their spend is more, but when you combine them with this guy, the bar plot will go high and it will show 1,000. But if you divide this or if you split this, what will 20 to 25, obviously this one will go down, right, and this one will go. So can you not change if the bin size in income? Yes, obviously, that's what we could see, right? Can you not change if the bin size? Yes, it will change, obviously it will change. To summarize what we discussed so far, when the data is heavily scored, please do not use mean. There is a formula for computing the mean, whereas for median you don't need to compute or you don't need to use any formula. If the data is heavily skewed, then we can use median. That's what we have seen it with the help of few data and more, right? In the case of voting situations or with classes, we can use more. It is the most popular value. Forget about the last one, geometric mean. We are not going to talk too much on the statistics part. If you know this one, it is more than sufficient, because using mean, median, mode, we are finding the middle value. What do you mean by middle? If you visualize it, for example, I have 1 and for example 1, 2, 3, 4 and 4. Let's take these 4 values. What is the average of these 4 values? 2.5, right? The average is 2.5. This is my average, or we can say median. Let's use statistical language, okay? Median is 2.5. If I plot this, right, in the x-axis, the median will be there in the middle. Median should be there in the middle, 2.5. So the 1 is on the left side of the mean. The 1 is below the mean value, and 2 is also less than the median, the mean value, and 4 is somewhat here, right? 4 is somewhat here. Right, the 4 is somewhat here. But if you draw, let's say if this is a normal distribution, if you look at here, right, it is not too wide. It is not too wide. Supposing, let's take for example, instead of 4, I have something like 4,000. What will happen? The 4 will go, instead of 4, right, it will go somewhere here, 40,000 something like 4,000, right? It will be way beyond the mean value. It is far off from the mean value. Hence, your distribution will become too wide. Too wide. Right? Because it is heavily skewed. It's heavily skewed. Now you understood what is skewed. It's a non-skewed data. So non-skewed data is not a skewed data. Hence, the distribution is very less. The size of the distribution is very less, or the width of the distribution is very less. Whereas in the case of outlier, in the case of heavily skewed data, the distribution is too wide. So here we are interested in understanding the central location of the data. 2.5 is the central location. Average, we discussed about mean. The median also the middle value, right? The central location of the value. Central tendency is nothing but the central location of the data. We are very particular about the central location of the data. Even in the case of median, we are very particular with the middle value. So in this case, 1 and this one will go away. 2 plus 3 is 5 divided by 2 is 2.5, right? That is the middle value. So the middle value is nothing but median. Mean is this one. In this case, we don't have any mode. We don't have any popular value in this one. So we are interested in finding the middle value as part of central tendency. So now let us look at visually what is the skewed data. We know what is skewed data. If you have an outlier data set, we call that as a skewed data. Within that skewed, right, there are two categories. One is right skewed, the other one is left skewed data. In the tail, when you plot the data, look here. So this is what I'm talking about. So look at here. I put the see if I put like this is a bell curve, right? So the HR guys in most of the companies, right, during the appraisal time, they use this term called bell curve. They say you are 1 standard deviation above the mean, or 2 standard deviation above the mean, or 3 standard deviation. Those of you who worked in Six Sigma projects, you must be knowing it. Probably project leader or project managers, you must be knowing the Six Sigma standards, and you must have used the Chebyshev rule and all, right? Here I am talking about this one, the distribution, right? So if you look here, right, so it is too wide in this case because you have skewed data, right? But here what happens, in this case it is very big, the value here is, but here it is falling down. Suddenly it is falling down like anything, right? It is tapering off on the right side. The tail is falling down, right? So falling down on the right side, right? Science we call the right skewed data, or it is also called as a positive skew. Positive skewed data. If the tail is falling on the left side, we call this a negative skewed data. It is also called as a left skewed data. Look at here. So in the right, so this is, since the tail is falling on the right side abruptly, right? Hence we call that as a left skewed data or negative skewed data. The tail is falling, or abruptly if it is falling like this on the right side, or the tail is extending on the right side like this, we call this a positive skew, or we call this a right skewed data, right side skewed data. We'll tell you, see, if you go and tell your business stakeholders something like, I plotted the data given by you. So the data, with that data, when I plot it in a histogram, with that data given, right, the given data, when I plotted it in a histogram, I could understand the given data is, right skewed or left skewed. Do you think your business stakeholder will understand this one? Let's assume that he has zero knowledge on statistics, right? So these terms these are the technical terms. Only a data scientist or statistician, they must be knowing it. Now I will tell you what kind of story you can tell with your business stakeholders in a little later. First of all, let's try to understand what is an histogram. Using histogram only, you can find out the type of the distribution, whether the data is normally distributed or given the data is right skewed or left skewed. The antonym for normally distributed is asymmetric. That is nothing but your right skewed, right? Asymmetric is there are two types, one is left skewed and right skewed. Now let us talk from the business point of view. Let's say your company CEO is breaking his head, right? He has an issue now because his employees, his company is doing good, his business is really very good, and his employees are also doing pretty good job. So of late, your CEO seems to be having a lot of anxiety or worries. He has some worries, and he calls the data scientist and he tells him, hey, of late I'm getting complaints from our employees that the whatever salary we are giving is very biased one. That means for known people or those people are very friendly to CEO, we give more salary, and those people are not friendly to me, I'm giving less salary. Though they are working hard by working day and night, right? We are paying less salary. So he is calling the data scientist. You want him to take the data and assess it, okay, or get back, whatever the complaints made by our employees are true or false. Because I wanted to have a fair organization when it comes to salary also. There should not be any gender bias. There should not be any bias when it comes to promotion or anything. It wants to be very objective. And he calls the data scientist. He collected the data. He speak to the payroll department. He collected all the salary and he created a bucket, right, using histogram, right? So 11,400 to 11,500. These two range. I'm talking about this bucket. Likewise, he created a bin. Then in the case of histogram, you have to use bin, okay, to plot an histogram. Okay, when we plotted the income salary, so this is my x-axis. We plotted the quantitative variable. Obviously, income is a quantitative variable, right? And this is my y-axis. In the y-axis, in the case of histogram, please remember, please remember, the y-axis you will have a count. You will have a count or frequency. Some people say, right, frequency. Count or frequency, right? In the x-axis, income only. So no matter what quantitative variable you use it in x-axis, your x-axis always will have count or frequency only, right? Count or frequency only. For example, in this case, 11,400. It's all in terms of thousands. 11,400 to 11,500 salary drawn by. These are all in terms of hundreds. Okay, 100 employees are getting salary between 11,400 to 11,500. And 11,501 to 11,600 salary drawn by again 100 people. But 11,701 to 11,900, 200 employees are getting the salary in this range. 11,700 to 11,900 salary, or in this bucket or bin, right? 200, or let's say not like this way, okay, 200 employees salaries are between 11,701 to 11,900. As a data scientist, when he called upon by his CEO, right, what he did after the discussion with him, right, he collected the data, he plotted it in a histogram. Now he goes back to the CEO and tells, sir, I plotted the data in histogram. The CEO is breaking his head. Hey, what is histogram? I don't know, man. He tells the story now. Sir, whatever salary we give it to our employees, not biased. Whatever the salary we give it to our employees unbiased. Okay, we are not biased, we are unbiased. Now he wants you to explain, it's your data and he wants you to explain further. How can you say unbiased? How can you justify my people? If I say a blanket statement, we give the salary or pay in a very unbiased manner, how can you, do you think they will accept? Again, now you go back and tell, you are explaining well here, by you tell the story by with the help of this histogram. Sir, only few of the employees are getting lesser salary and only few of the employees are getting very high salary and rest of them are getting the salary on par with their level. Let's say these guys, so these only few of the employees are getting very less salary. This is a very common phenomenon, right? Let's say you work for a software company, you are working for Infosys or TCS. Hardly few employees are there as part of support function. The account, finance clerk or account department clerks are there, or some typists are there, data entry guys are there, and some guys they do some kind of they support by the accounts department like peon kind of job, right? So their salary is less. We cannot when you look at Infosys in those companies, right, they don't recruit so many guys for doing this support function. You all agree with me or not? The clerical guy and the data entry guy, they don't recruit so many guys. In the case of Infosys, they recruit lot of developers, so many developers, so many senior developers, and with respect to the ratio of the number of developers and the project leaders, they they recruit they deploy the project managers appropriately, right? Only few of the employees are getting less salary, only few of the employees are getting very high salary. What do you mean by very high salary? So between 128 so 12,801 to 12,000 or 130, right? 13,000 K salaries received by only 100 employees. Only 100 employees are getting the salary in this range. Only 100, 200, 300 employees are getting the salary within this range. Only few of the employees getting less salary, only few of the employees are getting very high salary. So if you take the Infosys, the same example, hardly few guys are top guys. Why? Vice President, President and CEO, Chairman, right? Only hardly few guys are there, not many guys. As a data scientist, after plotting the income data, he could say very clearly in a matter of jiffy, hardly few of the employees are getting very less salary, hardly few of the employees are getting very high salary based on the level or something, right? They are getting, the histogram is very smooth. If you join the end of this one, right, or the edges of this one, you can see very clearly it's a bell curve, right? Perfectly bell-shaped curve. So this is what called as a bell curve. The normally distributed data also called as a bell curve. But in real life scenario, you will never get bell curve. Okay? Approximately normally distributed data only you can see. Now approximately normal distribution only you can see. Okay? But in this case it is a bell curve. It is a normally distributed data. There is no bias here. Instead of using histogram, you can also use something called, this is called box plot. Using box plot also, you can find out the distribution of the data or distribution pattern of the data. Let's say they have given you the salary data. When you plotted the salary data in a histogram as a data scientist, you are able to find out that this is a normally distributed data. And similarly, when you use a box plot also, you can find out the data is normally distributed. We'll discuss about the box plot little later. At this moment, you understood what is normally distributed data, right? So it will be something like this. On the left side, the tail. So both the side you can find the tail, right? Both the side, the tail will go gradually down like this. But whereas in the case of asymmetric data, right, on the one side only, right, on the one side when you plot the income salary data here, on the one, it is not normally, it is not a bell curve. It's supposed to be like this, right? It's supposed to be like this, but it is not like this. But it is not a normally distributed data. When you plotted this, you are getting something like this. The shape is something like this. Hence it is called right skewed data because the tail is flattening on the right side, abruptly, right? So it's a right skewed data or positively skewed data. What kind of story you can tell? 50% of the employees salaries are ranging between 62,000 to 2,50,000. It should not be less here. Okay, it should be more. Okay, so it should be something like that. But rest of the employees salaries are something like this. 50% of the employees are getting, the salary between this range, and the remaining 50% of the employees salaries are like this. 50% of the employees salaries are like this, but 50% employees salaries are very high. Fine. So now you understood the difference between normally distributed and this is symmetric data. Normal distribution, bell curve, symmetric distribution. All these terms are same. The asymmetric is an opposite of your normal distribution. It is not normal, it is abnormal, right? Abnormal sense it could be either right skewed data or left skewed data. We have one more distribution apart from normal distribution and right skewed data, left skewed data. We have another distribution, one more distribution. Look at this one. This is in the x-axis we plotted every month, the revenue. Each month I am getting 25,000. This is also 25,000. Consistently, each month in a year I am getting 25,000. When you plot this, there is no ups and downs here. You will get a straight line like ECG, dead person's ECG, right? Straight line. So in the y-axis you have the count. In the y-axis you have something like count, right? So in the x-axis you have your income, monthly income. Let's say you are running a catering. You are into catering business, and every month you prepare food only for 50 employees. Each month you deliver the food to the 50 employees only. Hence your income is same across all the months. When you plot this data, it will be like this. This is called uniform distribution. This is called your uniform distribution, and this is called your normal distribution. And we discussed about skewed distribution. See, one of the important properties of normal distribution is the mean will be there in the middle. And the mode is also there in the middle, and the median. The median is also same. All these values are same. It is not theory. You take an Excel sheet and you plot it. I will show you the Excel sheet which I used it to plot this data. You will get ultimately the mean value of this salary or income or salary is same as the median value. Median is also same as mode. In the case of normally distributed data, mean is equal to median is equal to mode. Whereas in the case of this is negative skew, right? This is positive skew. In this case, in both these cases, skewed data, the mean value will get dragged on the right side. See, the mean is got dragged. The mode is the most popular value. Hence, the tallest one, right? The peak is your mode. Here also the peak is mode, right? And the most popular value. So in between the mean and mode you have the median. The same thing. In between mean and mode you have median. Right? So now you tell me the answer for this this quiz. Which one holds true? First of all, this is a positive skewed data or right skewed data, right? Positive skewed data. Okay, fine. So in this case, the mean is less than median. See, as per the rule, the mean will get dragged on the right side, right? And here you have the mode. Between the mode and mean, you have the median, right? In between, so this is your mode and this is your mean, and that means in between mode and mean you will have your median. Now you tell me what is the answer. So the middle one is median. So obviously this is ruled out. and this one also ruled out. You have only two options. Does mean is less than median? Median is less than mode? Yes. What about this one? Does mode is less than mean? No, right? And the mean is not less than median. Hence, this is also, sorry, mode is less than median. Median is not less than mean. This is also wrong. So, obviously, the mean is less than median. Median is less than mode. Hence, this is the correct answer. As per this rule, right? The peak is called your mode. That means, this is the most popular value. For example, 62 employees, sorry, the 62,000 salaries drawn by 60 people. 60 people are getting 62,000. The most frequently occurring value is here, right? So hence this is the mode. So this is the median. This is your mean. So in between the mode and mean, you have your median. If it is a left side, you just simply put it. You take the mirror and put it on the left side. The mean will be on the extreme thing, right? This is your mean. Your median will be here, and then obviously your mode will be here. For example, it's all right, something like this, right? So your median, mode, and the same thing is applicable. Mean is the mean is obviously less than the median. Median is obviously less than your mode. This is left skewed data. Okay. So with this simple one single slide, you are able to understand what is mean, median, mode, and so now you understood what is normal distribution, what is left skewed data, and what is right skewed data, and the properties of both normal distribution and left skewed and right skewed also you understood. The mean is less than median, median is less than your mode. That is the property for skewed data. Whereas normal distribution, the mean is equivalent to median is equivalent to mode. So in this case, where does the mode occurs? Can you tell me mode? Can you see any peak here? We don't see any peak here. Hence there is no mode. Please remember, in the case of uniform distribution, in the case of uniform distribution has no mode. Full stop. The uniform distribution has no mode. Got it? Keep that in mind. That's it. Very simple one. Next one is here something called bimodal or binomial distribution. Let's say you have given a data in Excel sheet. You are a data scientist. As part of your exploratory journey, exploratory data analysis, right? You plotted the data in histogram. You can get the pattern something like this. See, so far we discussed about normal distribution, left skewed, right skewed, uniform distribution. This is somewhat, here we can see two peaks here. In the case of normal distribution, you will have only one peak. Even in the case of left and right skewed, you will have only one peak, whereas here you can see two peaks here. Now, see, it's so beautiful, right? This is why we say the data tells the story. So in this case, the histogram tells the story upfront to us. Take for example, let's say you are a shoe manufacturer. And you want to decide, or you want to determine for female and male, how many number of shoes. So you are shoe manufacturer, you are manufacturing shoes. You want to determine how many average number of shoes should be manufactured for female and male. How many number of average size of the shoes I should manufacture for both male and female. You want to determine this, and based on this decision, right? This decision will drive you to proceed with producing the shoes or manufacturing the shoes. When you plotted the data, right, let's say you ran a survey in your town, right, and then you plotted the data, both male and female, you ran a survey and you plotted the data. This is your female data or this is your male data. By looking at this, this is the most popular value, right? Majority of the female sizes 118 inches or centimeters, something like that. Majority of the male average shoe sizes, let's say 127. Majority of the females average shoe size is this one. Majority of the males, because you need to see, right, let's say this is your 70,000, something like that, right? It's all in terms of 10,000, 70,000. And if you draw a line here, right, sorry, if you draw a line and if you come back here, right, so probably 85,000, 80 somewhere here, right, 85,000, right, 85,000 male customers, average shoe size is 127. So based on which if you start produce the shoes, right, see, ideally you need to produce more number of shoes with this size only, 127, right, and 118. But what if you produce more number of shoes in this size? What will happen? More number of shoes for female, if you produce it with this size, what will happen? Let's say here 300 customers only are there, right? But if you produce 70,000 shoes, what will happen? Right, so most likely probably the 30,000 female customers will buy it because their shoe size will, the size of their feet is same as this one, they can buy it. Remaining 40,000 will remain idle because there are no customers in the population. I could see only 30,000 customers. Shoe size is this one. The rest of their shoe size are, right, but majority of the female customer shoe size are 118, right? So with this, it tells us very clearly the story, right? The data tells the story, right? So in this case, it tells us very clearly the majority of the female population average shoe size is this one. Majority of the male population shoe size is this one. If you go by this and produce a more number of shoes with this size, the chances of keeping the shoes idle in your warehouse is very less. That's it. This is for the binomial. And next, mode on categorical data. Now you tell me what is the answer for this. Now you know what is mode. Mode is the most frequently occurring value. So in the histogram we plotted something like the x-axis. So instead of plotting the numerical value or quantitative value, we plotted the categorical value, male and female. So how many number of males are there? Close to 35,000, right? If you draw a line here, right? Sorry, if you draw a line here, so see my hand is trembling. If you draw a straight line here, right, on par with this one, right? So probably 34,000. Female, how many of them are there? Yeah, most likely, sorry, okay, here, somewhere here, right? Yeah, 18,000 or something like that, right? So 18,000 or yeah, 16, 17, 18,000, let's say 17,000. So here, yeah, it has been given 34,000 or 16,500. Is this the answer or male or female? In this case, the answer is male. So you can use mode for the categorical variable also. You remember I gave you this example, gender, male, female, male, female, right? In this case, you can use mode. So what is mode? Most popular value. If you have more number of male in the gender column, the mode is male. Number of occurrences of male is more. Hence, this is popular value. So in the case of categorical value also, we can use mode. Please remember this. So normal distribution, this is what I told you. The properties of normally distributed data is mean is equivalent to median is equivalent to mode. The next one is positive or right skewed. So look here, how do we interpret it? most of the employees salary are between 31,000 to 70,000. Actually it should be like this, right? It should come like this, okay? And only few employees are making more than 70,000. Look here, this is very small, right? Very small, very small. This is how we need to tell the story. Most of the employees, because you see the number of frequencies are very high, right? Most of the employees salaries are between 31, not this one, 31,000 to probably 70,000, right? Or you can say 80,000 or also, right? Yeah, you can say up to this one, 91,000. Most of the employees salaries are between 31,000 to 91,000. Okay, and only few employees, right? Because the mean will be there in the middle, right? Mean will be there. Let's say this is a normalization. The middle value is here. Only few of the employees on the right side, right? Only few of the employees salaries or they are making salary more than 91,000, right? Next we will discuss about measures of dispersion. Since you are quite new to statistics, I am going to wrap up as of now, right? So with this I am going to wrap up, because in the next section we will discuss about measures of dispersion. If I cover this one today, you will be overwhelmed, right? What I would suggest you is you can watch my video whenever you get free time, okay? I will share this today's session video. You can watch it. The first session also I think I will be having it. I will pull it and I will share it to you. Okay, the first session, that was just an introduction to machine learning. Anyhow, I am going to repeat the same thing a later point of this training program. But still, I will share that also. For the time being, right, I will share this video. You can see, because this is very important, right? Because in the subsequent session, I am going to use the same thing, mean, median, mode, right, as part of measures of dispersion. Hence today's video you watch it, that is enough, okay? Just to recollect whatever I covered today, you just watch it, my today's session video. What we will do is, today is Wednesday, right? Tomorrow, because Friday I will be getting more work. Can we continue tomorrow? If you all okay, we will have a session tomorrow also, so that you can watch my videos on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You have 3 days free time, you can watch it. You just, all of you, please let me know based on the majority's response. We will discuss, okay? We will decide. Anyhow, by tomorrow by noon I will get back to you whether we are going to have a session tomorrow or day after tomorrow, okay? Any questions so far? Only, okay, the other participants are missing, but anyhow for them I already covered in the the Monday batch. I covered them, other people. For you people it's quite new one. Most likely the subsequent batches other people will also join. Anyhow, since you don't have any questions, I will share this today's video link to your WhatsApp number. You can start go through on it. We'll get back to you about the next schedule tomorrow by noon. Okay. Okay guys, good night, take care.